And now I'd like to turn over the table to Mr. Mykola Veresen, who I'm sure he's going to entertain the crowd. I hope there's nobody from Russian embassy here. Otherwise, there's a lot of bad things were being said. And by the way, I'm also going to add to the bad things that are being said. I didn't even say one word Pastor said. Yeah. Yeah, we don't even know what a neighbor. Okay. So, I may not be as wise as my colleagues. They have such a system and such a size that they're talking about the scope of the conversation. But I'll also try to say something smart, not just about television, and this something smart will concern. Oh yeah. Mr. Frishberg just reminded me to tell you that Mykola Veresen is one of the most popular TV personalities in Ukraine and also a journalist. Сказал. So look, what I'm going to say concerns Russia directly. And it's very dangerous for Ukraine, what I'm about to say. When I imagine to myself some sort of an intelligent Russian person who maybe even leader of some opinion of population, maybe in some sort of branch, he knows what is the great Russia and how it developed from point A to point B and how it began. And if today, for instance, accidentally, Ukraine does become this independent country, then huge number of stories that in the blood of each Russian person, and in the blood especially of this Russian intelligentsia, they'll be destroyed. If you carefully read, and we didn't read carefully the story of our own country, we always read the story of Soviet Union, then now only are you beginning to see elements of general picture of where did this land come from? How did this originate? What was it called? And completely different story. And there's a story that is in Moscow. It's called Old Land, where this land was created and where it came to, where it arrived. And I imagine from it myself, this person, I imagine this intelligentsia, and I'd like you all to imagine this Russian intelligentsia guy who always knew that he always, father, mother, that's his grandmother, that's his grandfather, that's his second set, this is great-grandparents, they arrived from there, he knows everything. They remember, they sit behind a table. And this person has a wife, this person has kids. Nice. In all respects, family. Nice family. And at a certain point, very carefully, it turns out he never had those parents. He never had those grandmothers that they were talking about. He had completely different biography. And when I imagine now, of course, Putin is fighting against Ukraine to preserve this history, then I understand this is a war not just for life, it's a war until death. It's a fight, battle until death. Because to accept construction where you have to completely change all of my personal history or history of the nation, if you to extend this argument, this is, just imagine it. This a tragedy of colossal size. And it's not a simple story of what happened with us in Crimea. Because I imagine accident suddenly comes new, non-Putin. And he says, all right, guys, let's be honest. Let's admit, during Peter the Great, Catherine, until then, we had a different story. We had huge connections with the East. In 15th, 14th, 13th, 12th centuries. We have nothing in common with Europe. And 140 million of people, how would they react to this? So they're going to tear down the monuments? Destroy architecture from those times? In Suzdal, in Vladimir? Because if you say the truth, for me, I was thinking about this in 1990. When I was talking in Russia, I was traveling through, and I didn't think, of course, we're going to have a war with Russia and Ukraine, but here we are. Now that I told you something smart, now I'm just going to talk about television. A few words, something you already heard. Of course, we'll begin about oligarchs, because there's, as Professor Savchenko said, there's a collection of oligarchs, oligarchy collection. They got the football team, you have to have a football team. You have to have 1, 2, 3, maybe more if you're an oligarch. You also have to have a fraction of a parliament members. Also 1, 2, maybe 3 different groups. And of course you have to have a television, 1, 2, or 3 TV channels. Now, it's really important question. It's not foreigners, it's Ukrainians who ask me often, why do you have such bad television in Ukraine? I have a very simple answer, and I hope my colleagues will understand it. They also understand these things. If television itself is a losing, it's not a profit-making venture. You always lose money. In last year, the owners of televisions contributed, reinvested about $800 million so that the television would just function. Now, the question is, why is it bad? You have so much money you're pouring in. Because if you have a big budget, and we understand that a big budget is when you live well. You have big budget, you have advertisements, you have refrigerators for ads. At least then we understand, sorry, then it goes, then it's, but just in this year, just for your information, this year, 100 million will be from the ads. They're going to get from the ads this amount of money, 100 million. So, and oligarchs will have to supply the rest of the money. Now the question is, why? Why is the TV bad? Answer. What is the difference for the oligarch if he will still have to contribute money? If he has to take money from other sources, from the budget, from the government budget that you steal from, that's where from. And if you can co-contribute money to your own television channel, whether it be good television show, he still contributes. If it's a bad show, he still contributes money. We understand that if this is a business, then before the oligarch faces a dilemma to kick out this journalist and lose $1 million. Conditional, just about. In today's situation, you can kick out anybody. He will not lose $1 million. He will still lose that $1 million, makes no difference to him. Or to acquire, or to kick out, or to close the show, or to open another channel show, he still pays. So when a producer comes to him and says, listen, this is a good guy over here. He says, I don't care. You can take out this, you can take a bum from the street and put him over there. I'm still going to pay him. So only at the moment when this country will begin to develop, contrary to the pessimism of Savchenko. And, and we'll become rich, wealthy. And we will see on television not only chewing gum ads or Coca-Cola, but cars and apartments for sale. That's television will become rentable. It'll become a profitable business. And we will see different quality television. It's very often Alex asked me to speak about Schuster phenomenon, Slavic Schuster, if you haven't heard. I don't see their economy in there, economics. I see pure politics in that. I think that he, Schuster, for any establishment was too big, too foreign. And I'll tell you a story about myself. In 2012, I walked into the president's administration, and there was a lady there who, Anna German, oh boy, who worked here for a long time, knows exactly who she is. She wasn't the right hand of Yanukovych, but she was definitely his left hand. And she says, listen, let's kick out Schuster and put you in charge instead. Of course, we won't be able to pay you as much as we pay Schuster, but we'll pay you quite a lot of money. And I, at that time, understood that if you have Italian or Canadian passport, and you work on Ukrainian television, we don't like you. Not because you're bad. He was actually pretty loyal to all the authorities, Schuster. He became a horrible revolutionary. No. It's just that I'm thinking psychologically, oligarch, if you're Russian and if you're from Moscow, I'm working with Russians right now, as a matter of fact, then we understand how it works. A Russian person also understands how it works. What if he's Italian? What if he did something wrong? I mean, he did something wrong. And we don't understand. So any power, any authority, like Yanukovych, wanted to kick him out. And Yanukovych, so Yanukovych didn't do it, so Poroshenko kicked him out. And this is an important point. The second important point is that censure. It's censure. Huh? Censorship. I don't see censorship much in Ukraine. Because if we're talking about 15 million people are sitting in the internet now, what sense is there to implement censorship if I'm going to find out the truth on the internet anyway? And I have a suspicion that the authorities also understand this, because there's not one channel where they wouldn't invite opposition. They always do. And we see that a huge number of people are cursing the president, and some people are praising him. So there's some sort of plurality there. One thing, I just want to add one phrase. You can do anything you want. One phrase. President works at night. President works at night. And at 2 hours a night, he always watches internet. It's true. He does read everything. When somebody thinks that he doesn't read, and he reads not what somebody says for him to read, he himself searches through and reads everything 2 hours every night. Yeah, that's true. That's true. So that's why, imagine what they say, that it became a lot worse. Like just like under Yanukovych, the television became, and with problems and censorship. No, nothing of a sort exists. And I think that this the train has left the station. It's not going to continue. It's very difficult for the censorship to be implemented. You have to be as rich as China, or at least like Russia, in order to. You understand that it's colossal money which is used for internet, and which are entering all the Russian channels to organize an opinion and to have censor. I know people who work in Russian television, and we all know what Russian television is. There's not a lot of truth there. Maybe some weather, that's the only truth they have. But, and if we're talking about this, I say to them, do you understand what you're doing? And they say, yeah, of course. So why do you do this? Long pause. They're looking at me like a complete idiot, and they say, you cannot imagine the amount of money that's involved. Yeah. The salary is 50,000 a month. It's not such so exotic pay as a salary. And each one of them thinks, I'll lie for 2 years and I'll provide my whole life for myself. That's it. Everything is solved. My problems are finished. In Ukraine, you don't have this kind of money. So what kind of censorship are you talking about here? And of course, there's certain sympathies here. For the owner's canal channel, for the certain channels in television, but I'm not sure that this are the people who are listening to the phone calls from the administration. That you have to say this and you have to say this and do this and do this. There are certain sympathies, feelings, and I'm loyal to this. This is a channel for the loyal people. This is a channel not for the loyal people. But I work for loyal channels. I also work for not loyal channels. And you won't be able to distinguish me from my words which channel I'm on. I say the same thing on both. The system allows me to do this. What else did we want to cover today? Let's take a look. Well, I think that channels, TV channels, who do they belong to? I think everybody here knows who the TV channels belong to. Kolomoisky. Akhmetov is an owner also. Pinchuk has a TV station. That's about it. From the big oligarchs, I think that's the end of my list. But since you still have to continue contributing money, then I think that there are certain independent channels which don't belong to these three oligarchs. But the light oligarchs, then I suspect that they probably take money from the real oligarchs to continue maintaining their little tiny TV channels.